You again.
I'm so happy to see you too.
I'm trying to remember, is the last time I saw you on Game Changers, or did we see each other again at one of the film movie nights? I can't remember.
Feel like it might have been a game changers because that was kind of a little bit before the world changed. And we did that in person instead of
We
Zoom.
did. You were at my house and I
And
had
you offered
cookies.
cookies.
I had
Yes,
cookies.
I know. I was like, ooh, like Vicky's asking me back, are there going to be cookies? And then it's on Zoom.
It's
It's on Facebook. No
so
cookies.
no cookies. We have to talk about all this because I want to know how your life has. First of all, did you get COVID?
Yes, I got it in September 2020.
Oh, early, pretty early.
Um, yeah, I guess it came out in like March. So
Yeah,
it
but I mean,
happened.
I didn't get it till this past January, so yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the only time I got it. So I got it. Um, and it's scary because when it first came out, is this a death sentence? Like you don't know.
and
And
you got it before there were
I
vaccines.
got it before, yeah. And so it was scary. And it's like I couldn't smell. And I have a lot of candles and I would do smell tests. And when I couldn't smell them, it was like very scary.
Could you
And I
taste? If you can't smell, you can't taste, right?
That's what they said, but for me, I didn't feel like that was so true because unless I felt like I could taste, but I
Uh-huh.
definitely could not smell. I
How long
had
did that last?
about 6 to 7 days, and I thought because I have this addiction to movie theater popcorn, which I was protected from during COVID because movie theaters were closed.
Yes,
And
they
I know it's
were.
not good for me. It has these hydrogenated oils, but I walk in and the smell is so good. And I'm thinking the only good thing that could come of this is it'll cure my addiction to movie theater popcorn. But then my smell came back and movie theaters reopened. But I'm so happy I could smell because that's so disturbing knowing I can't smell. And this is a strong soap. This is a strong candle that smell, and I can't smell it at all.
So did you do like I couldn't smell when I got it in January. I got the Paxlovid rebound. You didn't know from Paxlovid because they didn't have it then. But it took the COVID away in like 5 days, but then I got that rebound thing and that was like worse. But when
Uh,
I couldn't smell, I looked up online what to do. So I was smelling peanut butter and Vicks Vapor Rub and like doing all of those. So you were smelling your candles. You were doing sort of an
that I
aromatherapy.
know have a definite smell, and I would, and nothing, like 0%. Um,
It's scary, right?
that was scary, and then it came back, and then you don't know, is this gonna have permanent damage? They talked about how it could age your lungs 20 years or all these other things. So I don't know. Am I permanently? If I am, that's my life now.
Well, did you have any long COVID stuff that you know of?
Not that I know of, no. It was just fatigue was the worst part of it. I was tired. Um, I used that time to catch up and watch all of Ozark, which was, I think, maybe in its second or third season at the time, because I wanted to watch it and I never did, and I watched that. I listened to a great audiobook about the movies of Alfred Hitchcock. I watched some Hitchcock movies I've never seen before. Um, and I don't want to say, oh, it was a good time, but I guess quarantine life, I got to catch up on lots of things that I wanted to watch that I never
Okay,
watched.
so you did a lot of watching. We're going to talk about things that you've binged and what you're binging now because we did that last time and maybe you can give me some good stuff and likewise maybe I can give you back. Um Actually, the last time you did this show, Felix Solis was tuned into the show and was commenting and Felix was the bad guy in Ozark in that those final two seasons.
Oh,
Felix is the one with the at the yeah with the thing at the end, yeah.
and he was
So
watching us.
and he was
That's
watch he
I
was
didn't know.
he was, I know you didn't
What
know
a
that at the
world.
time. Yes. So so how long did you, was your COVID bad? Were you like really sick or not so bad?
It was more scary and annoying.
Yeah.
Um, I'm upset that I got it.
Do you
It
know how you got it?
Yes,
Oh.
I went outdoor dining with a good friend who he shouldn't have gone, and um, he it turned out he was with someone earlier who was sick, and he had a cough, and he didn't want to cancel our dinner, and it was so I found out I got COVID in September 2020, but our dinner was at the end of August, so it didn't test right away. Because at first, like a couple days later, I thought, wow, my throat is sore. And I tested. I think our dinner was on a Sunday. I tested on a Tuesday, it was negative, but then I tested again on Wednesday and it was positive. Um,
Mhm.
and I called him and he would at first he thought I give it to him, and then he told me no, he talked to someone else who he was with, and they so there's a lot of irresponsibility. Um,
So were you being like, okay, you're Jewish, I'm Jewish. I'm like of the Woody Allen Jews, of the paranoid and careful, and I was masking everywhere. I was really careful during the pandemic. I don't think I was outdoor dining by September. Were you not so careful during the pandemic?
I don't want to say I wasn't careful.
Yeah.
I wore my mask when I was supposed to, and we were
Mhm.
outdoor dining separated from other things. So you're in, I guess, your own pod. So this was
Right.
a friend, but I think, and I don't know if it would have happened anyway, but we were brought like a sample appetizer, and he didn't like it, and he offered the rest of it to me. So, which you could say, maybe you're thinking, you're so silly. I, and so now after that, I'm very careful not to just be all loosey-goosey, and share food
S-
like that. But I don't know, I did everything I was supposed to. I wasn't, I mean, outdoor dining, they made it, their protocols felt like it should be so safe. All of the
Yes.
servers are masked. You're when you if you get up from your table, you're required to put on your mask. And it felt nice to go outside because I haven't been to a restaurant in months. So I was excited when
Mhm.
outdoor dining became a thing again.
I can't remember when I started doing it. I can't remember how long it took me, but yes, it was very nice to do it again when we were doing it. Absolutely. I think I was late. I really took a long time to rejoin life, I think, though. As I told you, I was going live 7 days a week
Yeah.
and it became the COVID crazies. And actually, there's a woman, Marge McConaughey, who's on the show right now, who's watching, who got who went for like a scan, like an MRI or something, at the very, very beginning, and everybody in the waiting room like got COVID, and she got the long COVID, and it ended up she was sick for a few years, and it affected her
Mm.
heart and everything. She's healthy today. I'm knocking wood right now. She's all good, but yeah, she really paid a very high price. And
I
so
hope it's gone. I hope that those days are over. I hope nothing like that happens again.
But you
Uh,
know, Josh, it's crazy because somebody told me 2 days ago that 1 in 3 Americans right now have COVID. Yep.
uh, Wow. And I think it's a lot of them, people might have it and they don't even know they have it, which is, I think, better that because, like I said, when it first came out, it seems like a death sentence.
Right.
And now, hopefully, it's just an annoying inconvenience, like when you get a cold, where the fact that you could have it and not even know you have it. Um, but I remember I worked on something during that time, and I think we would have to do like 3 tests before each one day of work.
And did
Um,
you have to go through like all the COVID protocols where they would put everything on you, like in between each shot? And did you
yeah, it
go
was
through all of that?
so I guess I'll go right into it. It was a show that I booked right before COVID started. It was Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I was going to ask you about Mr. Mayor. Okay.
So that was actually my last in-person TV audition that I've ever had because now all TV auditions are on.
Another thing we are going to talk about okay, we're going to talk about all this. So, all right.
So,
So
but
you
the last time I went in person for an audition, I'm so happy to say I booked it. I was able to do that, and I got a phone call maybe it could have been, I don't remember, maybe it was the end of February that I got this thing on this Ted Danson, Tina Fey show.
How
I'm, I'm
exciting.
so excited. And then the show's not canceled, but all
Right.
production shuts down. I don't know if it's gonna come back, if when. And it was like but I was hopeful that it would. Like Tina Fey, Ted Danson, how could it not?
Right, right.
But as far as then things I watched, I then used that time to binge all of The Good Place, which I've never seen before with Ted Danson. I really enjoyed that. But then when that came back, that was, I think, in November 2020. Uh,
Right.
so I was and I told you I had COVID in September 2020. So that I felt kind of so relieved that I had it then because now I'm immune, or hopefully I have the immunities, the antibodies. Um, but then with all the tests, wait, I had it at the very beginning of September, and now I'm going to be working mid-November. I better pass this test because I got a job working on television. That would be what would happen if I don't pass it? Do they offer it to someone else? They're not gonna, I don't think, wait around for me. But yeah, I think like a week before, I mean, it ended up changing in their second season, but I think first you did one test where you had to drive into this obscure parking lot at Universal. And I think it was like one of those spitting tests in a tube. And then you
Oh,
do
they
that.
didn't go up your nose?
Actually, they may have done both. There were some on the work days you would do the long-term one and then a rapid one up the nose.
Right.
But then I remember I had like a wardrobe fitting, but before I went to the wardrobe, I had to have a rapid. And then so it was a very interesting time. But there were and yeah, this was before vaccines, and that was
Right.
became a requirement for season two. There was You had to have that, but in season one, when we did that, that didn't exist, and they had all of the zones. Everyone separated.
Right.
So meaning people like Tina Fey, who was a writer, they had as few people on set as possible. So I heard Tina Fey's voice on like a Zoom on a laptop, and she was just in New York. So there were as few people there as possible. And so there's producers or other people on a set. And usually being on set is such a fun place because there's the
Right.
camaraderie amongst other actors. Um, and but because everyone is doing all of this testing, once we're on set, once we're going to shoot, the actors take off. We had a mask and a face shield, so we're
Right.
double. But everyone was already so tested, so some of the rules seemed more extreme than necessary. But I understand this is a brand new contagion, and they're wanting to do it all by the book. But we've all been tested, and we're already when we're doing the scene not wearing it. And then because you have the actors, we all have makeup, and then when you're putting the mask on, and then our shield, it's adjusting that. But so I remember the first time I met Ted Danson, who was very friendly. He introduced himself and said, "Hi, I'm Ted." And I said, "Hi, I'm Josh." And then he said, "Oh, we'll never remember each other later," which I didn't know. And he meant because we're each wearing masks.
Right. Right.
But it took me off guard because I think I'm very recognizable because of my hair.
Yeah.
And I know he's Ted Danson. So I didn't know how to respond. I realized he's just being humble, like, oh, we'll never know. But
Right.
usually I'm not at a loss for words, but I didn't know how to respond because it's like, no, we will, I think. Because it was such uh, and I felt
Awkward.
it was awkward, which I want to ask you because you wrote such a nice write-up about me leading into this. But then when you mentioned the first time we met, it was a tad awkward. So I was going to ask,
So okay,
what
so
could I have done?
we met at Phil Rosenthal's Pizza Movie Night, which we've been commiserating that we don't get to go as often as we used to, and how fun they are, and they are so fun.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I read that one of the chefs, not Nancy Silverton, but one of Phil's chef friends, um lost their sense of taste and smell. We were talking about it from COVID. Can you imagine a chef not being able to taste and smell? How do you do your, how can you, anyway. But anyway,
My
I guess it
barber
was,
has no, he's bald.
I think that's different. I think that's different. Um, but anyway, so I had Samantha with me, and she was such a fan. From your early days, The Sweet Life and The Wizards of Waverly, but Glee, we watched as a family. All of us sat down and we never missed Glee. And in fact, Samantha is such a Leah Michelle is her goddess. And she went to New York for a trip just to see Leah Michelle do Hello, Dolly. And there was an understudy. Oh my
Oh,
God, I can't tell you.
and that's
She,
not fair to the understudy because everyone, she's thinking, I'm the star tonight. This is my big break. And everyone is just so annoyed to see her and to live up to Leah. Like, that's such an awkward position. Like,
it
that is
is.
on.
But Samantha was a good audience for her. She said she did a very good job, and she was great. She was very gracious for her. But anyway, so Samantha was so excited to meet you and everything. So it was awkward just in that way because I we're Gleeks, we were Gleeks, and so I didn't know if we were Gleeky, geeky
Oh, okay. So it was very awkward then on your end. Like, I was
on our
going to
end.
make it awkward because
No,
I want to give
you
a
were
happy experience. I want to, uh,
it
I
was a
try.
happy, it was a
Okay.
happy experience. So and also as we were talking about before we went on the air, it's awkward when you're in a social situation. Is it okay to be a fan? At Phil's Pizza Night, there were always, I mean, I met everybody there. I mean,
Hmm.
half of the people that have done Game Changers, I met at Phil's Pizza Night. And it's like, is it okay to fan on people when you meet them in that situation?
What do you think?
So
I always think it's so okay. And sometimes people ask me, is it okay if I tell you I love the show? Or I hope that's okay. I'm like, why wouldn't it be? And I can't imagine. So the fact they ask that, meaning there's people out there who would be like, no, I refuse to. I feel so lucky that people would even want to take a picture with me. And they're, so it's kind of so weird.
although as we discussed, there was a person who didn't want you to take a picture. And I have met a couple of curmudgeons that weren't really gracious about their place
It's
in.
so easy to be nice. I'll people from Wizard who love Wizards of Waverly Place or who love Glee, they'll meet me, they'll take a picture, we'll talk for a minute, and then after they leave, I'm able to hear within my peripheral hearing.
Right.
They're alive and they think, oh, he was so nice, and you could tell, and they're telling their parents or what who that I could tell that made their week. And that's such a
Yeah.
good feeling that why wouldn't I do that every time? And it's so easy. It cost me nothing. It was how lucky am I? And that's honest, that's so satisfying. That doesn't pay the bills at all, but it's very, very rewarding. And that happens a lot. And I can't, why would someone not do that? And I know people who don't, and it's surprising. And I understand that there's people, I'm nowhere near the Tom Cruise level or certain things where if they stopped for every single person, that
Right.
it might take 5 hours to get home. So I understand that there's like a time and place, but usually it's easy enough.
But then there's someone like John Travolta who I saw at a small screening at SAG who stayed and talked to every single person who wanted to chat with him. And when I said, "Oh, I hope I dance with you before I die," and he said, "Die," he said, "Let's take care of that right now." And he just like spun me around. Then there's people like that who just, are just so, they're
Well, but
just
here something that's interesting. So, at red carpet premieres, sometimes there's the fans who are kind of waiting and they're screaming to try to talk to you. And
right,
usually it seems like they're just ambiance or people don't go over and talk to them and they just talk to the red carpet reporters. I
right.
was at the MTV Movie Awards in 2010 and all the fans were screaming and so I was like, okay, I'll go over and talk to them. And what happened they had no idea who I was. They were paid extras um, to fill for the MTV Movie Awards for the. so like it could seem like they have hundreds of screaming people. So that ended up
It's like
kind
a
of being,
Trump rally.
I don't know, but it ended up being humiliating.
Boy.
And it was very so it kind of then that makes me not necessarily want to go over to someone else who's screaming because are they for real? Are they a real fan? Uh,
Yeah, that's crazy.
so
But
I don't know, but anyone who comes up to me, yes, of course, I'll be like John Travolta. I'll stay till the end. And that's, I think, why he's lasted this long because I think people
he's a
pay attention.
mensch. He's a mensch.
I've never
So
met him, but I'd love to.
he's lovely. He's so lovely. So okay, so let's talk about we're getting a lot of questions about this. Hi, Tony. Tony Sengel. So, Tony's the one who made that great composite. She took all the pictures I sent her and made that nice composite of all
Oh,
your
thank you,
pictures.
Tony. That was cool. I like those pictures.
Yes. So okay, so people are asking about the audition process and also the working process. So now, was it different when you were working on Mr. Mayor and you were under those COVID protocols? Was the work experience itself, was doing a scene, did it have a different feeling because there were all these levels of safety? Like, were you able to put all that aside and do a good job when it was Rollum?
I That's so interesting. I think the show suffered and
Mm,
wasn't as good as it was able to be
mm,
because of the restrictions. And I'll just go back to my first day of Glee, where Ryan Murphy, who is a creator and a producer, he started just giving me extra things on set that were not in the script. And just in the moment, being able to, hey, what if you said this? And he gave me some great lines and he would add moments. And because there's not a Tina Fey and the producers. I feel like in TV and all my years on television, the producers have so much more input, or the showrunners, than the director, where the directors, they're setting up the shots and
right.
and that's pretty much it. But as far as the creativity on a TV show, in my experience, seems to come from the producers. And that show did not
Interesting.
have that. And I think it was just and with so many funny people on that show, I think it would have, where if they changed the lines, were open to being able to change things, I think it would have benefited them. Um, it, as far as, it was just like a regular set though, other than all of the mask stuff, and it was keeping everyone very apart, and there wasn't, like usually on any other show there's a camaraderie and like
Right.
all the actors are
Oh yeah.
waving and
So
holding.
are you able to have that? You can't have that at all in that
Not in,
situation,
in
okay?
season two they had that, but in season one I really didn't get to talk to anyone because they and maybe other people on this show didn't have that who were the regulars, because in the first season I did two episodes in the first season, and
Right.
I did three episodes in the second season, where at that point the vaccines were out, and so some of the just on set protocol was a little more relaxed.
Somebody asked, are the protocols still in place now? Are there
I don't think
still?
so. I
Mm-hmm.
think last May, or in May 2023, they were like SAG lifted them. Because I know that was a controversial thing, because I know actors who that were not vaccinated and were not able to work then, and now because of the new rules, it's not required. And so now I don't think there's any testing. I think if you're not feeling well, they hope you just don't show.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the audition. Somebody was asking, you brought up the fact that that was your last live audition. Okay, so after all these years, an agent found me in December, and I now have an agent, and I just started to self-tape, something I had never done in my life. This is the weirdest thing. So I've done two of them so far. And just yesterday, Jim Beaver, a friend of mine who's a wonderful actor and who's been in hundreds of television shows, said he has never gotten a part from a self tape. And Peter Onorati in all of these hundreds of television shows said he has never gotten a part from a self-tape. How do you feel about somebody who just asked self-tape versus auditioning in the room? And Peter had a good reason. He said, you know, if he goes into an audition, he can talk up to the casting director, he can make a choice and turn his back, he can have a prop. But when you're doing a self-tape and you're
Hmm.
this, you're so limited. So what's your feeling about the whole self-tape thing, and how has that worked out for you?
Okay, I 100% miss in-person live auditions. Um,
Oh, and I also
but
want you to talk about the steps you took when you went to live auditions, because I love your process. But anyways, so let's talk about this first.
okay, so yeah, I definitely 100% miss the live, and I prefer the in-person audition for so many reasons. But I also was just talking to someone else, and they were talking about the actors who are negative about the self-tapes. And and they're talking to people who work, and it's like, so I actually want to try to not put the negativity out
Okay,
there.
good.
I'll say I do hate the self-tape. I don't like them. I've
That's
so
not negative at all.
I've never booked a self-tape in my life until this was a few months after that Mr. Mayor. I had an audition for Superstore, and this was the first time that, and I would do them just in my kitchen and trying to find someone to read with me. But I had a friend who worked a lot, and he told me he goes to this self-tape studio. And I asked, "Oh, what is their name?" So I called them up and I said, "Hey, I'm friends with so and so."
Now, wait,
And
Josh, did you do this for this particular self-tape because this was a show you really want? Was this one special to you, or you just,
no, I've never seen Superstore before. And and this is funny, I've actually never been on a show that I've watched or that was special to me. And what I mean by that is because I love Glee and I loved Wizards of Waverly Place, but I did them before it was on. I was on Mr. Mayor
right?
before it was on. So meaning like my favorite show used to be 24. And so it's never like or there was a show that I watched and then I was on it.
Right.
So that
Right.
hasn't happened yet. So that would be really cool. That's I have yet to have that experience, but I've never seen Superstore. But I go to
So
this.
what made you choose to do this self-tape at a studio rather than just in your kitchen?
Um, I never felt it's just such a to-do that I have to then find someone else who will be able to read the lines, and it's kind of I'm asking a lot of them to do the takes, to hold the phone, which is as the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
And then it's like I have posters on my walls, and then I'm removing them. I don't love my lighting. Let
Yeah.
me just try this. So on my very first time, I went to this.
Oh, the first time. Okay.
So the very first time I went to the self-tape studio
Oh,
was
okay.
Superstore. It's
Uh-huh.
JB Self-Tape. So I'll give them plug, shout out. And now I go to them for all my self-tapes. I went to them
Ah,
for Superstore
uh-huh.
and um and it was great because they gave really good just suggestions even for eye lines. So like or I'm just thinking about the acting, or maybe I'm looking all
Right.
at one place, but if I'm talking to one character and then all of a sudden maybe they walk away and now I'm looking here and they'll have a place and it just in the tape it pops more.
Right.
And so professional lighting, just being able to give the guidance, be looking right there, and then now you're and
Right.
it helped and it was like okay, this is a nice polished thing. It's just a clean wall. It's good camera, and then I found out
What
I hope
color is the wall?
I think it's like a grayish wall.
Okay. Because the white is, I found white is not really, yeah, great. Okay. Yeah.
And so then Superstore, I think was also before vaccines, I think, because I think I did that in February.
So now wait, let's go back to your Superstar edition because that's the first one that you did a self-tape and you
Mhm.
scored it. So
Yeah.
your very first self-tape, you booked it?
Yeah, and my on Superstore, the character was Puppet Mike, and I had a puppet with me. I was just trying to see if I had the puppet. somewhere, but I
Puppet
brought the
Mike.
puppet with me in the audition. And I just, and during, so sometimes you slate, and when you slate in an audition,
Right.
that's when you say your name, your height, your location. And I sometimes find out that's the only time to show any originality or show who you are, which you
Right.
used to be able to do in the room. So I have my puppet, and I say, "Hi, I'm Josh Sussman. I'm 5'7", and we're both from Los Angeles." So, and I'm just showing, and I'm speaking like the puppet's auditioning also. When I used to audition in person, um, they would get to talk to me beforehand. They would just see you in the waiting room.
Right.
There's small talk where they could have the idea like, oh, wait, maybe what if he read for this character? Or they have the ability to redirect you
Right.
and say, see, now when you send it in a self-tape, it's almost like a giant guess, where it's, you know,
Right.
um, but and just recently, I just booked a small part in a feature film, and I had
Yay.
my first day on set, and I have 3 more days next week. And
Yay.
the director told me that my self tape, that my tape was different than anyone else's, and I was like, okay, I didn't. It's not like I wasn't trying to do something so different, but it's like, huh. And that's why I
What did
think
you do? Do you remember what you did?
yeah, but it's very specific to the movie, which they sent emails. Like, oh, I don't want to talk about it
Okay.
yet.
Yeah.
But if when we do a Game Changers in two
Yeah.
years from now, then we'll be like, oh, that was that audition, and that's what you did there.
Uh-huh.
But if I
But you
did,
showed your own, did you show your own personality in it? Or you did something specific for the character?
I did something specific for the character, and it was something that maybe a lot of people made creepy, and I made it more innocent than creepy. Uh,
Nice.
And so if that was the perfect choice, but if there was someone else, or if it was another audition and you're there in person, like they would be able to say, hey, make it less creepy. Um,
Right.
and I think because of Glee, where people would think I'm creepy because of I was a Rachel Berry stalker, I think I sometimes go out of my way to try to not be creepy because sometimes people just assume
That you're
that
creepy.
that I'm creepy. So, um, but yeah, so and it was a great feeling that because this was just very recently, this movie that I booked from the self-tape, and other things are either offers from people who know you, like or and I hope it goes back to in person, but I hear people it seems like that's the reality, so I have to embrace it. And I just want to there's one advantage that, and sometimes in the audition you go in and they don't have a lot of time. You maybe do one take, maybe a second one. But here, and this is a blessing and a curse, because I have the ability to do it 10 times.
Right.
And but then sometimes, well, no, that I don't want to, even though I'm going to a studio and they're now helping me with it, I don't want to waste their time. And it's if I fumble over a word slightly, well, I just got these pages a day ago.
Right.
So it's the type of thing where you could drive yourself crazy trying to make it perfect. And there's so much that's out of your control. There's so many reasons you will or you won't get a job. And I don't think the reasons are because, oh, he didn't stumble once.
Right.
Like there's
Right.
just so much of it comes down to your look or what they like, or if you're the
Absolutely.
producer's nephew, or if you're the something.
You
And
said something last time you were on the show that it's not even so much who you know, it's who knows you.
yes, yeah, it's not even how people say, oh, it's not how talented you are, it's who you know. But I'm like, no, it's not even who you know, it's who knows you. And I still think that's true because if it's who you know, like we mentioned all the people that we've met at movie night. I know them, but it's not, do they know me back? Am I on their radar? Are they thinking
Right.
of
Right.
me? And that's why I think going out or being invited even to premieres or other things, like when I first started doing those things, I just thought, this is fun. I'm going to a red carpet premiere. But then the first time I got a job from one of those things. I met someone who at a red carpet event and they were doing a Comedy Central show and they asked me if I would be in it. And it was a paid thing. And I was like, maybe these going to these things is a job because at first I would think maybe the first year or even 2 years, wow, this is fun. Red carpets, celebrities, free food, open bar, all blah, 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 gift bag. But then I realized, wait, no. But then the networking, that is hard because I see people who network aggressively and sometimes it's so cringy. And I
Yeah.
never want to do that. I networking, I'll just be nice and kind and show, oh, he would be fun to have on set. Because I also think to people, it's annoying the actors who are like, hey, do you have a part? Or is there anything for me? Because I could, if you need a curly haired guy, I could do it. And but I see people who do that and I see it work for them. And it's like, am I supposed to do that? And now I think
I don't think you have to. You are a curly haired guy. You put yourself in front of that person. If you're likable, and yeah, I don't think you have to say those words because I think it's a given. You're a curly haired guy. You're an actor. You're talented. You're funny. And here, yeah, I think making the connection is definitely the important part. Um, so Josh, people are asking a lot of questions and I want to get to them. Talk about your preparation for an audition, and I know it's different now than it was before. I loved your preparation for an in-person audition. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because
yeah.
yours was
Um,
unique in a certain way.
well, as far as just being a new young fella in LA, I didn't know the area. And if I had an audition, I would go there a day
Love that.
early. Why would I do that? Well, what if I don't want to then go there the next on the actual day and find out, wait, it's kind of tricky. I don't know where to park. I can't find the building. And I wanted this so badly. I moved across the country for this dream. And if I'm fortunate enough to have something, I don't want to be late because then if I'm late, I'm going to be panicked. So used to go to every one of my auditions. If it
Wow.
was someone a day early, I wouldn't wait around and camp out overnight. No,
Right,
that's
right.
silly. I, but I would, and I would go there and I know, okay, this is where I could park. It's going to take this long. And that's what I used to do. And I would also just be memorized off book, meaning I'm not like staring down at the script, like I'm not, um, because then they don't see your eyes.
Right.
Oh, and now there's a new rule with auditions that came up with SAG that's like, oh, you don't have to memorize your lines. And that's one of the things. Now, let me tell you something about that. First of all, that's just so silly. They're saying that because technically an audition is a performance, or no, if you're memorized, it's a performance, and they should be
Right.
paying for that audition. They don't
Right.
want to be paying you, so that's just, I think, legalese nonsense they have to say. Because
Right.
the people who want this really badly, they're going to be prepared and they're going to be memorized. So even though in the audition notice it says you don't have to be memorized, you could be reading your script, and let's say there's 10 people going out for it, and I can't imagine if there's two silly people and they're like, oh, I'm just going to be reading it. They're going to be not taken. And so it's a disservice actually that they're telling you, oh, you don't have to memorize it.
Okay, let's say you get this, let's say you get the sides on a Friday and it says must be turned in by Thursday at 5 o'clock. When are you turning it in?
That's a great turnaround time because sometimes you don't get that much time.
Well, I'm going to ask you another question too. This is my first question. So let's say you get, because let's say you have 6 pages of dialogue, or
Well, but before I
this
answer
happened to
that,
me.
I want to just tell you, go back to the Superstore, which I booked.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
How much
I
dialogue did you have to learn for that?
I think it was 2 lines.
Oh,
So it's the type of thing it could have been very easy to shoot at home, but it's like I wanted to just do it right. Um, I I think let's say I got that on a Wednesday, and let's say it was due on Friday. I went immediately. I think within 15 minutes of getting the audition, I made the appointment, I taped, I sent it in. On Thursday, I was pinned. I was on So meaning it wasn't even the deadline yet, and I was pinned. I have
Wait. So you got it on Wednesday and you filmed it on Wednesday.
I filmed it on Wednesday. Now that's not always practical, especially on that one because it was two lines. I didn't have to do anything really to prepare. I memorized the two lines
Right.
instantly.
Right.
I but when it's 6 pages, ideally I want to record then on Saturday, or sometimes they're not looking at things over the weekend. So even if it's due Thursday, I'd love to have it in to them by Monday.
That's
Um,
exactly what I did. Okay.
no, and that's smart.
But
And I've been told
well, but
earlier.
6 pages, you could learn 6 pages from Friday at 5 o'clock on by Saturday. I can't. I didn't learn it by
I think the more
Saturday.
you do it, I think because our memory, our brain, it's like a muscle. So like the more weights you lift, like and then
Hmm.
you could do more. And so like people who when they're doing theater or they're on a soap opera, at first once you have
Right.
it, you're able to mem and the more auditions and the more you're doing it, you're then able to memorize really fast. And then of the 6 pages, it's usually not like a six pages of paragraphs after paragraph. And um and sometimes, and I don't like to do this, but at the self-tape place, they offer sometimes to put up the lines sometimes next to the camera on an iPad. And it doesn't look like you're reading. And I
Right.
don't want to do that because I want to, like I heard people on SNL, they say always read from the cue cards because if you try to do it from memory and then you look to the cue cards, that looks bad. And it's meaning like
You're
if
better off to read the whole thing than to just glance and
yeah,
because you
because it
might
doesn't
lose your
look
place.
right.
Hmm.
And I've seen and they've shown me people who've done it, and it's like, yeah, I can't tell that they're reading. So it does allow a bit of a cheat system, though I don't like that because I don't like having it in front of me because then I am tempted to look at it. So I still um I'll spend as much time you say it. Because how many if you've seen a movie even 3 times, you sometimes know what the characters are going to say before they say it. So when you have a script, you want to, it's like a movie that you're playing in your head that even though this movie doesn't exist yet, when you're reading it, you're watching the movie, and then you know, oh, when they say this, this person says that. That kind of how, and it's easier also when it's well written. And sometimes there's stuff that's not well written, and then that's
Yeah.
harder to memorize.
That I had this political thing and it was not the sentences, it was not good English. It was really crappy. So here's my next question. So I it was my first one and one take, I changed some of the wording, but it was a better take than the one that I did perfectly. So I
Hmm.
turned in the one that I changed some of the words because I thought
Yeah,
it was more important that it be the better take. Would you do that?
I would do that. I
Mhm.
think unless I hear, like, unless it's a prolific playwright like
Yeah.
or a David Mamet, and if and he said are not you and you say aren't, no, that's or were or were not, weren't. You can't. They don't want you to change anything. And
Right.
certain like Aaron Sorkin like is very
Right.
specific, but. And other times, I feel like I sometimes even will add stuff and like add a button. Like on the Superstore audition, I included 2 takes and I added my own button. And so a button is like at the end of the scene, I just ad-libbed or added my an extra moment. And just to show, okay, he's comedic or it's
You
and
added two take you I didn't know you could put up two takes.
well, and because it was just 2 lines, remember?
Mm.
So when
Yeah.
it's and it was 2 lines, so it's the whole thing is what 20 seconds. So it's because like, oh, this is so short. Let's just add another one where you do
Yeah.
something different.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like, wait, they had me do 2 takes, which I maybe wouldn't have thought on my own. Um, and I booked it. I was like, okay. Um, I just I had a table read for the movie that I booked, and it was interesting. During the table read, I noticed actors sometimes changing the words slightly, and but it sounded more natural. And I'm thinking, okay, because sometimes there's so sometimes it is okay, and sometimes you are able to make it better. And as long as there's not like an ego.
Right. A
The
writer who's
writer
going to
was
be
like, how
offended by
dare they
that.
change my words? But sometimes I think it's very okay to change things, and especially if it's more natural and it's like, and everyone else is saying it exactly how it is. They could be getting tired of, oh, take after take. Oh, Vicky did it a little differently. I like that. So I think it's refreshing, but I mean, it's probably different every time.
So, would you say that your odds have been pretty good booking from self-tapes?
I've only booked two. So, in that sense, no, no. I in
It's
person
rough, right? It's rough. The competition is crazy and
and commercials, some of those have gone back to in person, the in but the self-tape for commercials, I don't know if you've had any, the
no,
instructions are sometimes so complicated that they're almost
really.
having to like shoot a mini short film, the things they're asking you to do and
Like, what
different
do you
camera
mean? Give us
setups.
an example.
Um, I would have to just, I guess, pull one up, but the camera is gonna we want it panning across as you discover a suitcase, but then you're gonna pick up this suitcase, and it's like you just have to have all these props, and it's
Wow.
um but then we want a close up as you open the suitcase. We want to just so it's just multiple,
So then you have to go to a studio to do something like that.
and then it's like, and that ends up becoming so much extra money that is never spent on going to auditions is now at these
Yeah.
things. And I used to, with in-person commercials, I would, it would be very rare to not have a callback. I would say 80% of my commercial auditions, I would get a callback.
Wow.
But with the self-tape, that 80% turned to 5%. Um,
Wow. It's
and
brutal.
it's just very different. The industry has changed. I I used to be fortunate enough to do like a couple commercials each year. I was fortunate to do one last year. And it's just airing like on streaming and like on ads. And so it's not on TV. And
Make the money.
that's where you make money and where you have enough to earn insurance. So it's just so much with
Uh,
things being lower budget, lower tiers, it's been so much harder to survive and
ugh.
thrive in this industry. And that's where I think you have to be more entrepreneurial. And it's like that's you right now having this show, having this podcast is so good. And it seems like that's what we have to be doing. My manager recently said one of the best things you could be doing is growing on social media. And that
Right.
is a thing that casting or producers they will look at and they will consider um, how many followers you have. And so I need to be better. I know that I need to post more and it's just, what do I want to post? And one of the tough things, I know if I post something about Glee or Wizards, that gets the
Right.
most likes, the most interaction. But then
Right.
you also um, get,
Then you pigeonhole yourself, don't you?
yeah, so you don't want to. And this, not to give a troll attention, but on the anniversary of Corey Monteith's death, which was last month, I
Mhm.
just posted a tribute to him. And someone wrote, Josh, Glee was a long time ago. Move on. And obviously they're being a troll. And it's like, and it's just such a disgusting comment. And
That's awful.
you
That's
know,
just
it's so
awful.
awful. And it's like, and it bothered me. I shouldn't admit that it bothered me, but it
Yeah,
really.
you should. That's fine for you to admit that it bothered you. That's an awful thing for someone to have done. But that's the thing about social media. We we open ourselves up for when we put ourselves out there. I'm all over Facebook and everything, and I used to be very, very opinionated politically and all. Well, I still am kind of, but not. I really used to put myself out there, and oh my God, people are so mean and vicious and horrible. They
And
say
it's all
horrible things.
99% of the people are followers or people who are interacting are so nice and
Yes.
loving and generous. And but it's the one that really stands out. And I feel that's not good because sometimes I'll respond to the bad one and I'm like, and then I feel like, wait, I'm getting all these nice things. I'm gonna, instead of responding to them, I'm gonna make sure to write back every single person and thank them, and I appreciate them, because sometimes it's so easy to just give the bully the attention, and sometimes like, oh, I never thought you would read that. I'm actually a big fan. Like, well, what a terrible way of showing it. And there was someone, I forget if it was Instagram or Facebook, they wrote to like 30 people telling them they were my assist that I'm Josh Sussman's assistant, and I think you could see on my Facebook, I think I posted like a screen grab of these conversations. I don't have an assistant. I don't know this person. And then this person ended up like saying, "Oh, I'm actually a big fan, and I'm telling, well, if you're, this is a terrible way to go about doing it." And then they said, "I'm just so happy you wrote to me." Uh, and it's
Oh,
like, and
ugh.
then some other people, then they rip them in the comments saying, "How sad for you if someone you admire, like if you're getting chastised by someone you admire, if that's happiness to you, I feel sad for you." And it's um I
Oh.
hate scammers. I hate hackers. I think they're so evil.
Somebody
Um,
made a fake Vicki Abelson page and started sending people friend requests. I mean, I'm not anybody. What are you doing? What, why me? It's like,
catfishing for their
I don't know. It's
Tinder
crazy.
profile or something.
It's crazy. All right, so let's get back. So somebody wanted to know if you how you feel about the whole AI thing. And do you have an opinion about it?
Um, yeah, it's very scary as far as what it will do for the future just of actors. I mean,
Mhm.
on one end, I could say the technology, because I've talked to AI and interacted, and it's mind-blowing. It's the most
Mhm.
impressive thing I've ever seen. It's like movies like The Terminator used to seem like science fiction. Now it seems very realistic. I've seen videos and audio of people that I was fooled because it was AI and it was not really them. I have a friend who works in AI, and he told me that he thinks it's gonna obliterate the voiceover industry. And unfortunately could see that happening. Because also then on TikTok there were all these like AI Glee covers of songs that the Glee cast never sang, but the
Wow.
AI, and then you could pigeon, or you could hear different people's voices, like, oh yeah, that's Leah, or that's Naya, that's Chris Colfer, but they never did it. And
Wow.
it's yeah, so, and I don't know the legalities or how or the protections of how that's going to work if a studio wants to use that. Like, there's an appeal in a recognizable voice, but then if I don't know if they could copy. And I've heard AI voices that I guess sound like Morgan Freeman, and apparently, and I don't know if this is fake news or not, but there was someone using AI Morgan Freeman to do audiobooks. And apparently Morgan Freeman found out about this and is suing. This is something I heard third hand. I don't know
Right, right. I
if
think
that's
I've heard
true,
that also. Mhm.
but it's so but I never want to be like, ah, it's just sad, or it's because no one wants the complaining person. And I've seen other actors who are just then complaining about how bad things are, and sometimes it is healthy to be able to talk about, okay, this is what's going on, and we do have to adapt, evolve how to figure it out. I've seen actors then using AI to their advantage to be able to, write scripts for themselves or do different things on social media. But it is very scary. And with the contracts, it seems like they could, if you do a movie, that they have the ability maybe to use an AI version of you for the sequel. Now, some of this
Wow.
stuff, I think, well, then in a world where Robert Downey Jr. got paid 500,000 for the first Iron Man, 10 million for Iron Man 2, and then 50 million for the Avengers movies, for each Avengers, that you could see the studios, oh, well, we don't want to have to pay that. So I don't know how um
Mhm.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, I don't think there's going to be anything major where it's replacing actors in the next 5 years, but it's definitely something to worry about. So as far in that sense, I am not a fan. I hope. that the technology could be used for good. It's just
For
very,
good, but it challenges our belief system. I had 11 different characters shots to do for my agent, and I showed them to my son, and he said, "Oh yeah, you used AI." And I'm like, "No, I didn't use AI. That's hair and makeup and outfits." And he just assumed it was AI.
apparently you
And
could use AI now for headshots, and you could
yeah,
change your hair, and and I've seen ads for AI of what they'll do for headshots and all sorts of things. And I think on Zoom right now, I ask me if I want to do an adjusting filter, and just for vanity, I yes. So I mean right now I just see myself in a little box, but I my face is smoother than it.
well, just the smoothing filter is the. I know there was a thing that if you did, yeah, look, hearts. If you go like this, if you have the AI, it makes hearts. See? And if you go like this, like a little thumb
Right.
up comes up. Like, yeah, just weird
It'll do it on
stuff.
my phone.
Yeah,
Um,
it's weird that this stuff is just happening. I don't
or
under. Oh, I didn't see that one.
yeah, that one will send up like balloons. Oh, and then if you do like the rock sign or something like this, you'll get like lasers. Um, or maybe it's the other. Yeah, try the. I don't know why it's not working
I'm
for
not
me.
getting the lasers. But anyway,
And
that's
then it
it.
thumbs down. I think you get tears.
Oh, come on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, all this stuff is very weird. Um, yeah, that's just weird. Okay, so Josh, this is all real. So if you had your druthers, you'd rather walk into a room and audition, right?
yes.
Um, so do you think,
And I would
just your
the other
personal
option is
opinion,
Zoom.
do you think there's any way we're going to get back to that? Because I don't know that we're ever just like we're doing this interview on Zoom, we don't have to. We probably don't live that far from each other. There really isn't COVID worry anymore. We could have done this in person like
I
we
think
I
you're
used to
closer
do
than you
it.
were last time. Last time it was a trek,
It was a
more of a
trek.
trek to get to. But now I think we're neighboring towns.
And yet I'm still, but there's a reason that I'm choosing to continue to do it on Zoom because right now everyone watching at home is looking at both of our faces and seeing everything, right?
Hmm.
When we do it in person, all they're seeing is this because we're looking at each other. And so we're looking at each other, but they're not
Hmm.
really seeing us. So I find the experience for the person at home is kind of better as
Okay.
a Zoom experience, even though there's something really sweet about it being when it's in person.
There were
But
cookies.
and there's cookies. That's even sweeter. But
Thank
so
you again.
what I'm wondering is there a reason? Is there a
I
reason?
wish
I think it only works when I do it. I don't know why. Yeah, see? I don't know why. Is there a reason for the casting directors to do them in person again, do you think?
I think maybe for callbacks or for chemistry things, they will. I've had a couple on Zoom, which like even less than the self-tape. I
Why is that?
Because one, when I would before do them in my kitchen for a self-tape, but here I would be on my computer for Zoom, and I can't do it where it is right now because I don't have room to stand up. It's a very limited room, and I have to remove these posters. So I then turn it around into like a living room area, and then there's furniture. It's not. But I had one callback for a thing on Zoom, and I feel like it was one of my worst auditions
Oh, and
because
then you also can't do it a second time. Then you get one shot, right?
I mean they have the ability to ask if to try it again, but I was there. I had a Zoom session, and I guess there was the director, producer, casting director, and I was reading lines with one of them. And in acting, you're listening and looking at the other person. And I don't know where my eye line is because, like, right now I'm looking at the camera. Right now I'm looking at you.
Right.
But then, if when there's multiple people, there's like four boxes of different people. So I'm looking at the one person, but that might, I don't know where it looks on them. There was a little bit of lag, whether it's from Wi-Fi or not. So I felt like my responses were delayed.
Right.
And with that, I just felt like there's no way I came off as a good actor in this audition. And it's not my fault, but I just felt like it wasn't good. I didn't like it. I had one actually other Zoom callback that I did just from my phone. And I just set my phone up on a table, and it wasn't ideal because I'm just looking at them in my phone, but it that one was actually a good one, and I was
Well, if
one
you
of the
do it on your
final.
phone, you have a tripod, right? If you do it on your phone, you can stand up and kind of have a little more freedom.
Well, I was in New Jersey at the time, so I didn't. I just kind of would.
Mm.
I would have to then sometimes like build piles of books, and then I'd have something balancing it on to hold it, and it's it's not ideal, but I get they're probably saving so much money on casting offices that they would rent out that they don't have anymore. Um, I
Yeah,
don't know. I feel bad for the young and upcoming actors who don't get to go in, but I think young people are also so much more introverted that they probably don't know any difference. Um, and sometimes there were the waiting rooms. Like I don't miss sometimes going down to Santa Monica on a Friday at 4:30 and waiting in a waiting room for an hour and then having to have like an hour and a half of rush hour traffic,
right.
getting back. But I remember the first time I did have the in-person commercial audition, I was so excited. And even though I was in an hour of traffic, oh, and the commercial I did last year, that was from an in-person commercial audition.
Wow.
And it was like, okay. So there is something about the in-person, but it's like, I don't want to just be that guy who's like, I want to figure out how to be the best I could and really make the best self-tapes because that's the choice I have. Though I heard these other actors on a podcast, actually it was, I think, from Entourage, Jerry Ferraro who played Turtle. I
Uh-huh.
think it was him who was, he doesn't like the self-tape either. And he was talking about how there's something about having an in-person audition where you don't want to make a fool of yourself and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of these high-profile people, that you're going to be so well prepared and you're going to go in and nail it. Whereas when you are just doing a self-tape, you don't have that pressure because I can do it again and again, and it's just something about that pressure that breeds
The
a better,
adrenaline,
yeah, and that the adrenaline is not there these days.
right.
I I don't know. I'm just so happy right now to be like working. I just had my first day. It was
Excellent.
so much fun on set. I had a great time, and
How do they do chemistry reads and stuff if they're not putting people in the rooms together?
maybe well, the one I had one that was like in a Zoom, but I think for those maybe they do them in person.
Hmm.
There's been a lot less. I think between COVID and then the strike and then fear of an IATSE strike, I think there's been a lot less production than there's ever been. Uh,
Right.
and I'm hoping that things start coming back and there's going to be more and more and things start opening up. And I just think the more opportunities we have, the more potential there is to book something. Um, because it's a numbers game. I was trying to think, like back in the day, during the Glee time, I would maybe audition 2 to 3 times a week. And if I
Hmm.
booked something once every 2 months, I was thrilled, and people would think, Josh, you're working all the time. Where I'm thinking, oh, not really. It's kind of an illusion.
Hmm.
But if I'm instead of auditioning 2 to 3 times a week, if I'm now auditioning 5, 6 times in 6 months, it's a lot, which has been more realistic. It's a
It's
lot.
crazy. It's crazy.
And so there, it's just so much harder. And also during those times where I was auditioning 2 to 3 times a week, and I would book things that I couldn't even do. I booked a couple of national commercials that, because I was booked on Glee, and I would go for these commercial auditions, and it's like, and I book them, and then I found out, oh, I can't even do them. Uh, and so everything when it's so busy. it's when it rains, it pours, like because there's so much time where there's been nothing, and then all of a sudden, once one thing happens, it seems like it's all happening.
Of course. Of course. Okay. So, Josh, there are a lot of people on this show that probably don't know how you got your start. So, you're wearing a Kermit shirt. So, we have to talk about why. There it is. There he is. The last time you were on the show, you had a dream. I don't know if you've gotten to realize your dream yet. Um, no. Okay. So let's talk about your dream and why you became an actor, Josh. So tell us about where you come from and how you why you became an actor and how your career started.
Okay, so I grew up in New Jersey and as a big fan of the Muppets, Muppet Babies, Fraggle Rock. And I remember it was my fifth birthday party, and my mom asked me, she was going over the invite list and who from my pre-K class we were going to invite and what neighbors. And I also mentioned I wanted to invite Kermit and Gonzo and Fozzie. I definitely wanted them there. And my mom explained, you can't invite them. They live in the TV. It's like, I need to figure out how to get into that TV. And that's what started my interest in doing it. So I did actually get into the TV. I've been in there. I haven't found any Muppets yet. No, I have worked with puppets, and like I said on Superstore, I was with the one, and I did have an audition, a self-tape audition for the Muppet Mayhem, which was the Electric Mayhem show that was on Disney Plus, and that was a couple years ago. And oh, that would have been a dream. I was so
Oh,
excited.
I know it was your dream to meet the Muppets, to work with the Muppets. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. You came close now.
It
You're
was a
getting
decent
closer.
audition, but my one of my favorite things was the show Warren the Ape, which I was doing at the same time as Glee, and that was with a monkey puppet named Warren DeMontague, and I was his assistant. He was addicted to drugs, sex, alcohol. He would see Dr. Drew every week. And that was a really fun show, and I enjoyed that. But I still have my eyes on the Muppets.
I
And
love the
I've met
Muppets.
Muppet performers, but never, yeah. Um,
So how did you go from being this boy in New Jersey to being this boy on TV?
oh, well, I think when I was 9, I took my first acting classes, and I was like, this is fun. I actually really enjoy this. I hated school. I did not like school at all, but I really enjoyed this playing make-believe. And I think I was very creative and good at that.
Were you good at school though? Because as you prepare for auditions, I would think you were a good student. Were you a good student?
No, I don't think I was. I think I was good at drama, or I was good at the things that interested me, but
Hmm.
the academics, no, I still sometimes have nightmares about homework and like science class. It was so challenging and tough for me. But and then I went on stage for my first time, I think at I was 12, 11 or 12, I was in the school talent show and I did stand up and I told jokes and I really liked that. And then I started doing local community theater. I was doing 2 to 3 plays a year. Was your screen shaking or?
I'm answering questions. I'm answering a question while you're talking.
Oh yeah, it looked like for me, it feels like almost like an earthquake. I don't know if that's
Did
just,
did you feel the earthquake as a sidebar?
I very slightly, I was at a diner in Pasadena having lunch with a friend and I just kind of, oh, it's shaking it, but it was
At first, they
over.
thought the epicenter was Pasadena, but it wasn't actually. It was Highland Park. I didn't feel a thing, but
Okay, yeah, no, I
well, there
felt
were two this last week. Did you feel the first one?
I just felt the one that was on Monday.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't feel it. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so you're doing plays. You're doing yeah.
I'm doing plays, and then at one of the community centers where I'm doing theater, they also had a summer camp, and I decided I'm going to be a camp counselor. And then being a camp counselor led to becoming a babysitter. And I was making $9 per hour
Wow.
as a babysitter in 2001, 2002, and or 2004. And then I decided that it was time to move to Hollywood like Kermit did. Kermit had the same dream. Um, I told the families I'm not going to be able to babysit anymore. One of the families told me, "Oh, you're moving to LA. Oh, to be our brother-in-law's out there. Call him." So I called his brother-in-law, and he said, "Oh, wait, Josh, you're Josh, the great babysitter. We were told to take good care of you. What are you out here to? Oh, you're out here to be an actor? Hmm. We're family friends with the manager. Let us introduce you." And that's how I met my manager, who I've been with for almost 20 years now. Uh,
Wow.
I'll be this January, I'll have been in LA for 20 years. And I left New Jersey as a 20-year-old. I drove across the country. I timed the visit to wind up in Las Vegas on my 21st birthday. Um, and I guess I realized I just revealed my age, which they say you're never supposed to do.
Nobody's
And
watching. It's all right.
And but in Vegas, so my birthday is on the 30th, and it's the 29th at 9 p.m. 'Cause I'm from New Jersey. It's already midnight, so I know I'm 21, and they card me, and I explain, oh, I'm from New Jersey. Look, here's my New Jersey driver's license. I'm like, no, you have to be 21 in Vegas. I'm like, oh, no, but this is where I'm from, and it's already after midnight, so I am 21. That they did not see
They
it
didn't
that
buy
way.
that.
No, so I waited till after midnight, and but then the next day I arrived in LA. Um, I got my manager through my babysitting connections, and I would say the moral of
Unbelievable.
that is I never grew up with the passion to be a babysitter or a camp counselor, but by being the best at whatever I was doing, that led to helping this because when I was a camp counselor, I don't think other teenagers wanted to be a camp counselor. Oh, their parents made them get a summer job. But
I was
I
a
ended up
camp
becoming,
counselor. I was a babysitter. I was a nurse, did all those things. I hear
yeah.
you. I
Yes, you know
agree
how
with
it
you.
is. And but the kids, they really liked me, and that ended up, if I was lazy and if I was just, I don't want to be here, that wouldn't have led to that. That would not have led to,
That's
because so many
fabulous.
people could move here to LA and never get an agent or never get a manager. And you could be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't know or don't meet the right people, it's possible it can never happen. And it's like I'm so lucky that things have worked out.
How
And
long did it take you to get the first job, Josh, and what was it?
um, I got my very first audition that my manager sent me out on, which was maybe like 2 months after being here. It was called My Crazy Life. It was on the E Network. Um, I know each episode had a different celebrity and they would tell a story from their crazy life. My episode was Tom Green, and Tom Green was telling a story about him and his best friend, who was me, and there was reenactments, dramatizations, and I played Tom Green's best friend.
I have to stop you this time because I didn't last time. Tom Green is my ex-husband's best friend. And my kids, and he was just up at Tom's house in Canada. And Gabe worked for Tom on his shows and was his writer and producer. And I can't believe I didn't stop you. And I know Derek, who you played Derek, and I know Derek. And that's just
Oh,
so weird.
oh wow.
Derek's blonde. So that's just weird.
So it
Even
wasn't even
more.
accurate. Oh, and I'll just tell you something crazy. Um, that I don't think I've ever shared this one before publicly. So this is a Vicki Abelson exclusive.
Yay.
Not that deep, but I'm a huge Back to the Future fan, and Marty McFly had a red vest, and so I bought a red vest to be like Marty McFly. I wore that red vest to my first audition for the show to play Derek, and I booked it, and then they ended up having me wear that red vest in um, on the show. It became my good luck red vest. I would wear it to all my commercial auditions. I wore that red vest to my audition for Glee, and that red vest is in the first episode of Glee that I'm in.
Fantastic.
I'm wearing it in the celibacy club. And now the movie that I talked about that I'm doing now that I'm doing the
No.
self-tape, I am wearing the same red vest. So it's like I was like, okay, I should really wear that.
Wow, you should wear it for every self-tape.
Yeah, I
You booked your first audition. That's amazing.
and which was such a good feeling. Like things really worked out for me when I first came here, which I'm so fortunate because I've had times more recently where there could be, 6 months with nothing. But I booked that and I just started booking. I was very fortunate in my first year. I did so many commercials. I
Wow.
I joined SAG within 4 months. I think in April I booked a thing that had to join SAG, and I did a show at the Amundsen Theater, which was like a 2,000 seat theater. And
What show did you do at the Amundsen?
it was called Dead End by Sidney Kingsley, and they filled the orchestra pit with 10,000 gallons of water to simulate the East River, and we were swimming on stage every night.
What?
And yeah, it was.
Wow.
And then yeah, there was more commercials, and then and the next year I got Drake and Josh. And what was
Wow.
cool about that, because up until that point I would do commercial after commercial after commercial, but it was always something new. But with Drake and Josh, that was the first time that they called me back to, hey, you want to come back and do a second episode? And that was such a good feeling because for everything up to that point I auditioned for, but my second episode of Drake and Josh, I was able to do without. I mean, I auditioned the first time, but it was, and most of the things, or so many of the things I've done, I was hired for just one episode, and they became more. Drake and Josh was one episode. Glee was one episode. Mr.
Wow.
Mayor was one episode. Uh,
Wow. So tell us about Glee. How did that happen? Because that was is iconic.
I mean, it was just like anything else. It was just a regular audition. I think I auditioned in January 2009. I had a premiere for a short film, not a, I had a premiere for a feature film I was in, and that was the night before. I think I found the premiere, let's say, was at 7 o'clock, and but then I found out, oh, at 6 o'clock you have an audition for Glee tomorrow, which okay, I don't know what that is, but that's fine. And then because it was a movie premiere, they gave everyone a mini bottle of rum and everyone was drinking it. And I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but for the audition, but this was part of the celebration of the movie. So I did that. And then the next morning took myself on a hike to the Hollywood sign. I sweated out any toxins I might have had. I had my first audition with the casting director, Robert Ulrich, who um, he said, "Oh, I was really good. You're gonna have a callback." I said, "Okay." I and at this point, I'm working and having callbacks or working on different sets, so it's okay. That's just another thing. And at that point, I guess Ryan Murphy did Nip Tuck, but he wasn't a name that was on my radar. It's not something I had. Oh my God, Glee! Like I think if someone auditioned for Glee in season two, it would be the most
Right.
so exciting. But this is before the show ever aired. Uh,
Right.
is it like a high school musical or it's like about a high school Glee club? It doesn't really. Okay, yeah, it'd be great to get it because it would be a job. Um, but and my manager is telling me, this, it's in the high school. So even though it's just this one episode, they could always bring you back, or you could, which he was very right on, because I ended up coming back 21 times. I had
Oh,
my callback, which was at Paramount Studios, and that was exciting to drive on the Paramount lot. And there's all sorts of interesting characters at the audition, also interesting. And one of the guys was a regular on a Nickelodeon show, and it's like, oh, him, I don't know, like everyone seems to love him. I don't, and a couple of weeks went by, and I was like, nah, maybe I didn't get this. So I ended up cutting my hair Um, because I usually after my auditions, I don't cut my hair. I try to remain looking the same.
Sure.
My afro actually came completely by accident. I moved to LA with short hair. And after an audition, I was gonna cut my hair. It's getting much longer than it was, but oh, this audition went well. What if they like I won't cut it. Oh, I booked it. Okay. I'll cut my hair soon. But now, wait, I have another audition and wait, I have a callback and so my hair kept getting bigger and bigger. So before I never had like this afro. But then after like 2 weeks went by after my Glee callback, I cut my hair. So in my first episode of Glee, my hair is the shortest. It is, and I guess I remember Ryan asked, "Oh, your hair was longer." I was like, "Oh yeah," that's, but it didn't matter. But yeah, the the Glee audition, and I remembered going for my first episode of Glee. It was I had no idea. Like I don't think that's my favorite was the first 13 episodes of Glee before it ever aired, before anyone knew, because I don't think anyone knew. And that was just a really fun time. And it's also interesting to observe people changing, meeting people before
Uh,
they're famous, seeing who remains the same, who doesn't. And so just getting to witness and observe stuff like that
mm,
is really fascinating. But
yeah,
then
yeah.
I remember so when I then going back to Mr. Mayor, I was like, huh, I wonder if this will be like Glee where we're filming this whole first season and then it's gonna and it wasn't. You could never predict. I was like, oh, with Tina Fey and Ted Danson, I'm gonna be in another hit show.
Right.
And that wasn't the reality
Mhm.
for that one. So I realized you could never predict, like you could have so much fun on set, and that doesn't mean and sometimes you just can't tell.
Right. Right. Well, that makes sense. All right. So the one last thing I want to talk to you about that we talked about last time, and I want to know where you're at with this. So the last time we talked, we were doing the dating apps. We were both doing Tinder and Bumble and doing all of that and talking about dating and how hard it is. What is it like in a pandemic? I mean, do you have a girlfriend? I mean, are you dating?
I have
What's
a girlfriend, and she moved in with me shortly before pandemic. So
I love, and I have a boyfriend and I live with my boyfriend. So yay. So we don't have to do those dating apps. Isn't
yeah,
that
no, those are
wonderful?
terrible. I
They
didn't
were
like those.
terrible. I'm so happy to hear that, Josh.
Yeah, I don't miss those.
No,
Those
those
have
are
made my thumbs
awful.
so tired.
We're talking about how guys just used to swipe without even looking at the thing. You explained why you did that, but it's still not a good reason to just do the swiping thing. I don't think there's
Well, I
anything
would
wrong with
swipe 1,000 times just right and still not get anything.
it. Well, I'm glad those days are behind you.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
glad.
You know, yes.
So everybody's asking, so what's coming up for you? Well, you're making a movie right now. Is there anything in the can that's coming out?
In the can, I did a voiceover for Netflix animated thing that actually I forget what it's called, but I think it was for a second season of a show, and I did it before the first season came out. I think it's like a show based on a video game. So I'll post about that on my Facebook when I know that it comes out. Um, but yeah, I'm doing the movie now, and there's things that are also in the works that sometimes things are in the works and they never happen, and sometimes things are in the works and it's like boom, 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 it's all happening at the same time, and then you have to figure out your schedule and to make it all
I
work.
love it. Okay, last question. What are you streaming? Have you watched anything fantastic? Because we are like in the abyss. We've like watched everything and we have nothing right now, and I'm going crazy.
Um, I'm excited for the new final season of Emily in Paris coming out. I know maybe a lot of people think that's very silly, but I had fun with that. I watched the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Did
Uh,
that.
I recently rewatched all of Entourage, which I really enjoyed.
Huh.
I feel like that's such a fun
Fabulous.
industry specific show.
Hmm.
And that's a show that I'd love to see come back. Just
Wow.
dealing with because it's the closest to like a workplace comedy, and it's so very accurate to the industry, and with the way things have changed, I'd love to see.
That's an interesting idea.
I mean, just like how would Ari Gold be doing in a post Me Too world? Is like, has he changed? Like, would he have to? Like, is it? No, it'll be. I think that's a show I wish legally that had to come back every 5 years for even just 8 episodes, just to or even
I
like a
like
4 episode miniseries. That would be.
I love it. I love it. Josh, thank you so much for doing this. It's always the time just flew. It's just always so fun to talk to you. I just
That
had the
was
best
fun.
time.
Thank
And
you,
I
Vicki.
can't I guess you can't tell us what the name of this project is, so we'll just have to wait.
Yeah,
And you'll post about it when it's a
there's
thing.
people in the movie who you might know. Um,
Oh,
so that's
well,
exciting.
well, I'll look forward to that's like a year away though. I'm gonna have to wait,
Well, I
right?
can't say it publicly here, but maybe I'll like privately.
Okay,
I can tell
okay.
you.
You'll give me a little. Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to that. Thank you so much again. Good luck with all the self-tapes and everything. I might call you for tips sometime.
Okay, yes. Sounds
Okay.
good. Well, this was fun.
Thank you so much, Josh.